afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March 24th Governance and Priorities Committee meeting. I'd like to begin by recognizing that we are on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. Our clerk today is Ms. Sheila Gurry, and we have Councillor Janice Perino joining us virtually. Thank you. Today's Governance and Priorities Committee meeting will be held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedural Bylaw 2018, number 7272. I'm not going to do the preamble because there is no public here. I'm just going to go to the first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. Ms. Gurry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. There are no late items on your agenda today.
Thank you. Could I have a motion for the adoption of the agenda? Mayor Krogh and Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? I see none opposed. We have one set of minutes from the regular Governance and Priorities Committee meeting held on December 9th. Could I have a motion for the adoption of those? Mayor Krogh and Councillor Eastmere, all those in favor? Any opposed? I see none opposed. 5A, agenda planning, upcoming topics and initiatives. Ms. Gurry.
So thank you again, Madam Chair, and good afternoon again. In your agenda package, you have a list of the upcoming GPC topics and initiatives that outlines the tentative schedule for these topics that we've worked out for the year up until October. That's as far as we've gotten to. You'll note today's meetings, today's topics that are scheduled for the meeting today, as well as we have April 14th topic, May 12th topic, that is the social issues initiatives, that was a standalone item, and just basically based on what staff is able to prepare and capacity, we have this noted right now. If there's any changes, we'll be able to inform you the closer the items come. So at our next meeting in April, we'll be able to determine if there's any changes to future items and if they're still going ahead, but this is what we have scheduled right now. The one item under tentative GPC topics that is a decision point other than what you may have to discuss as a committee is the City Plan Review Project. It is proposed to come on July the 14th as a GPC item, topic item, and we are looking for a council motion for that item to come forward to that GPC. I would just note that it is a provincial requirement that the city review and amend its OCP by December 31st, so this is legislatively required to come forward. If the committee does not wish it to come to a GPC, we would have to bring it to a council meeting, so I just want that as a note. Otherwise, if the committee is amenable, a motion to add that to the list of topics for the July 14th meeting would be wonderful.
Thank you, Ms. Gurry. Councillor Armstrong? Moved and seconded by the mayor. Any discussion? Councillor Eastmere, go ahead.
Thank you. I do note that the report on controlling the sale of invasive species is not scheduled until October. I think I would just like to say I was hoping that would come up a little bit sooner than that, but recognizing that we have some pretty full GPCs in June and July, I understand why it is where it is. If there is something that can be shuffled to get that earlier, that would be great, but if not, I understand.
Thank you. I'm seeing nods. Go ahead, Ms. Gurry.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Of course, as we know we get the future topics nailed down, we will do our very best to move that up and then bring it to you at the next meeting in April, a proposed new schedule, or trying to move that up ahead.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further hands, the question on the floor is to have a GPC related to the City Plan Review Project on July 14th. All those in favor? Any opposed? I see none opposed.
And Chair, if there's any other items that the committee wishes to bring forward, now would be a good time to propose those, and we could you could have a motion on those items.
Any additional topics, Council? Seeing none, thank you. Into our report, 6A, City Plan, the City Plan Monitoring Engagement, to be introduced by Ms. Pan. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So this report is to propose a city plan monitoring process to engage with staff, stakeholders, partners, and the public. This is following the introduction of the draft monitoring strategy last April, and also the release of the monitoring data on city's website for the first time in December last year. And the monitoring process is about how we plan to share the data and develop insights, both within the organization and with our community. And staff articulated several objectives in guiding this process. And the proposed approach includes both internal engagement and external engagement. And as for internal engagement, we propose to establish a data management and interpretation working group to improve our data management practices and increase analytical capacity. And for external engagement, we propose 3 activities of various frequency, intensity, and scope, including ongoing topical engagement with the community, an annual check-in with key stakeholders and partners, right after the IAP annual progress review and monitoring data updates, but in time for financial planning process at the beginning of each year. And finally, broader public engagement every 4 years in conjunction with a full IAP update and a comprehensive monitoring report, and aligned with Council's strategic planning process starting 2027. So attachment A has a draft schedule for the city plan implementation to outline kind of the timing of these activities. So we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Pan. Questions or comments from the committee? Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thanks. No, I appreciate the report, and I like how sort of everything feeds in terms of the monitoring and then engagement and then the IAP review and budgeting. And so I feel like all the cycles fit into the cycles. And then I think it's just a matter of the engagement that happens annually. You know, I think initially when I was like trying to conceptualize what could happen, there was like committees, but I think depending on what the engagement is like, you know, just meeting the objectives of one, telling our story, what we've been doing, and reporting back on sort of updates to the data is great. And then being able to get feedback from relevant groups on how the specific actions in the action plan are measuring up, or if there's potential gaps identified, to give council that feedback as they go into that budgeting cycle. And so there's so many different parts of the OC. It's like a big thing, and there's a lot of different things going on and how to do that practically. So I'm just curious, like, do you foresee like kind of engaging with organizations or different stakeholders one-off? And do you foresee like an event? Like I remember one time we all went, maybe it was even before this council, but there was like quite a large engagement session, and maybe it was with the areas, with the neighborhood associations, but it was like in the Bevan Social Center, and there's a bunch of tables, and there's counselors at each table, and it rotated. But being able to do something like that, an event once a year where people can come learn about what we've been doing, and then they can go to whatever table or tables on the specific areas of the OCP that they're interested in, be it the environment or transportation or whatnot, and be able to provide hopefully informed feedback or engage in discussion with a counselor and staff on those would be kind of cool. And it would serve that purpose that maybe I thought would fit with more specific focused committees. But I guess the question too then after these comments is so we approve this in principle, would the specifics of these engagement processes come back to council as a check-in, just to sort of an update on what we're kind of thinking of how to pull it off?
Mm-hmm.
Please.
All right, through the chair, I think that some of those details, if this is endorsed in principle, some of those details will start to kind of mapping out. And I agree that there is a lot of data and perhaps a very diverse interest from the community in specific areas. So thinking along the line of, how to accommodate, specific groups and individuals on specific topics, as well as bring people together to be able to see the big pictures. So whatever format we pursue, we'll have to consider those, preferences. So the annual event could be breaking into different physical areas for concentration of interest, as well as potentially breaking into a few smaller sessions to have those deeper dialogues. So those are to be figured out, and I think that if council desires, we can bring back a report to check in once we have a plan in place.
Cool, great, thanks so much. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and people that have been tracking what Nanaimo's been doing with this from other jurisdictions, and seeing this piece, I think it really creates an integrated, coherent process on how we plan and execute, and engage the community. So thanks for the work on this.
Thank you, Councillor Gesselbrock. Councillor Armstrong.
Just wondering on external engagement number 2, why we're not allowing the public to go, because they really are our key stakeholders, and we hear a lot from them that they're not included in any things that we handpick who we want to do there. So I would like to have it open to anybody in the public who wants to attend. My thoughts, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Mayor Krog.
Thank you very much, Chair. A question for Ms. Pan. Since the staff provided the Governance Priorities Committee draft monitoring strategy, et cetera, back in April of last year, which is nearly a year ago, has there been any independent inquiries made through to you or staff at City Hall that you're aware of by presumably the stakeholders who should have an interest in this, or is it kind of quiet?
Through the chair, so we are seeing interest from different groups and organizations. We had some early engagement once the release of the draft monitoring strategy, both locally and internationally. And we've also shared data and the tools that we have developed since with volunteer groups, neighborhood associations. So there is this ongoing engagement. We also have the survey on our website, and so I'm also seeing people, what improvement or what they're looking for. We try to respond to that as soon as we can.
So what you can say is that there is some public interest still in this. It's not just faded from the saliency test in politics. There are people who are still engaging and going on the website, checking in with City Hall, etc.
Through the chair, I think it's still fairly new. We only released the data since December, and so I think that what I'm seeing is that people are specifically looking for certain things, and there's a very specific interest that certain groups and individuals they're looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions from the committee? Seeing none, would someone, Councillor Gesselbrock, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, just in terms of an open public event, I think that's not a bad idea. I think, I think from my perception, things have been pretty quiet in terms of what we've been putting on the community. I mean, there's been very focused things on the public works yard, but on the larger process and all the different focuses in that larger story, not so much. And then I think sometimes in that void, the public engagement just becomes on criticism and opposition to specific things that we're doing. And I think that this is a really good opportunity to be able to include and engage folks in this sort of larger movement of the type of community that we're trying to create and the different focuses of it. And I think by providing these opportunities, I do think it can really help balance out kind of what I feel like I've been experiencing the last couple of years of just sort of more critical and not as engaged, around the big picture, but specific things that folks don't like. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gurry, do you have something you want to add?
No, just as Ms. Pan said, we will be bringing back ways that we will be engaging to run by you. But as for the what we're monitoring and the data that we're collecting, we won't have substantial data until 2027, until that broad public engagement is scheduled. That is why we picked that 4 years to be able to collect that data to be able to share what we've monitored, because right now it's just in a gathering phase. So it's just, that's why the broad engagement was picked for that year.
Thank you for that, Ms. Gurry. Further comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, would someone care to make the recommended motion? Councillor Geselbrock, Mayor Krog, all those in favor? Any opposed? I see none opposed. Thank you, Ms. Pan. Moving on to 6B, Prosperous Nanaimo, the Woodgrove Area Plan. The purpose of which is to provide an update on the Woodgrove Area Plan project and present the Phase 1 baseline assessment report. Ms. Brinkman, hello.
Good afternoon. So happy to provide an update today on the Woodgrove Area Plan project. And Ms. Began has been leading this project and will present today, but it is very much an interdepartmental project. So there's staff from Parks, Rec and Culture have been involved, Transportation Department, infrastructure, and so we're bringing some of the findings of the early assessment today.
Welcome, Ms. Began.
Thank you. Good morning, or good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here today to present the baseline assessment report findings for Phase 1 of this project, and as well as provide an update on the engagement process to date. So I'm just gonna wait for them. So as a reminder, City Plan Nanaimo Reimagined envisioned the Woodgrove Secondary Urban Center to become a complete community where we have housing options, transportation, as well as ability to access your daily needs. And the first phase of this project is to determine how complete is the secondary urban center. So to understand the current state, oh, apologies, go back. I cannot go back. Can you please go back one slide for me, please? To understand the area's current state of completeness, 5 key indicators were assessed. Go back one more, please. They include housing, transportation, daily needs, retail, and infrastructure. So various aspects of housing were looked at, starting with the mix of housing types, and it was found that 92% of the housing stock in the Woodgrove Urban Center is apartment-style buildings under 5 stories. So that's in alignment with what City Plan calls for the urban center. In terms of the housing density, there are approximately 568 housing units, which is relatively a low density for the area, but not surprising given the amount of commercial that is present there. Housing affordability, there are currently no non-market, or also known as subsidized affordable housing units. All the housing is currently market. In terms of housing tenure mix, there's slightly more rental housing stock available than there is ownership. And lastly, the bedroom mix, there's 54% of all units in the Woodgrove area are 2 to 3 bedroom units, which is relatively good. Moving on to the transportation indicators. When we talk about mode split, meaning how people get around, it shows that 85% of residents residing in the Woodgrove Urban Center currently primarily rely on their car, with only 10% using active modes of transportation, so walking or cycling, and the remainder 5% using transit. When it comes to walking and biking to a transit stop and then waiting for your bus, the area around the Woodgrove Exchange and the Woodgrove Mall shows to have the best service due to the number of bus stops that are available, as well as the number of buses transiting through. Lastly, the intersection level of service indicates that the existing intersections within the study area, is all we looked at, have sufficient capacity to currently handle the existing traffic volumes during peak periods. So generally they're flowing pretty well. Moving on to access to daily needs and retail baseline findings. So starting off, we looked at what is the ability of residents who live within the study area to be able to walk or cycle to meet their daily needs. And generally we found that the pedestrian infrastructure is a bit more robust than the cycling infrastructure. It's a little bit easier to access their daily needs. However, there's a large gap as there are currently no parks and open spaces, no recreation and cultural facilities, and no schools within the study area. And to be clear, we are aware that there are ones adjacent to the study area, but the purpose of this project is to look at what's currently available within the study area. Moving on to infrastructure, we looked at the sewer, water, and storm infrastructure. So in regards to sanitary sewer and water systems serving the Woodgrove area, both are at or close to capacity. Additional population will require substantial investments to expand underground infrastructure, and the current development cost charge revenue is insufficient to cover this. In regards to stormwater, we found that 90% of the area is impervious, meaning that there's great opportunity to improve the amount of pervious infrastructure that is available to help manage the storm water that is being generated. So overall, these findings are included in the baseline assessment report, which is being made available on the Get Involved Woodgrove Area Plan project page. In regards to engagement, that began last Friday on March 21st. We have a survey available to the general public. To date, as of this morning, we've received over 400 survey responses, which is relatively good, given it's only been 3 days, and advertising is just starting to ramp up for this survey. We'll also be holding stakeholder meetings and engaging with youth at the adjacent schools over the coming 2 weeks. And the survey and engagement closes on Monday, April 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Began. Mayor Krog.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just with respect to the survey, is it open to anyone in the city, or is it just to, quote-unquote, the Woodgrove area?
It's available to everybody in the city, and we have specific questions that relate to those that live within the study area and those that live outside of the study area, so we can understand the patterns of behavior of people using the urban center.
And can you tell us today, I realize it's very early and I'm not expecting an answer necessarily, can you tell us today how many of the people who actually live in the area have responded, as opposed to those commenting who live in Harewood or Deering Street or Bay Street or wherever?
So unfortunately, I have not had a chance to look at any of the responses to date.
In terms of the sewer infrastructure, water infrastructure, how far are we off, how shall I say, peak load, so to speak?
I will let Mr. Sims respond to that question.
Thanks, Your Worship. Excuse me. I think it's safe to say within the next 2 decades, which is actually a relatively short period of time when you're collecting funds for infrastructure, that we'll be broaching or getting close to capacity. We do have some DCC projects currently underway or currently in the plan that will deal with some of the sewer capacity, and some plans for essentially a continuation of the major water supply system to the north end, which will also support the growth, notably in the Bowers district, I think, because that's going to be quite a shift in land use.
And if I may, Chair, with respect to the mix, tenure rental versus ownership, my impression is that's changing rapidly within the area up there. Is that fair to say? And if so, can you comment in terms of any numbers? Ownership would have been the dominant theme, so to speak, but now with the number of apartment buildings being constructed, I would think it's probably changing.
Through the chair, so I'm not sure what the question is. Can you repeat it, please?
You talked about baseline findings, housing tenure mix, rental versus ownership.
Correct.
And I'm just saying, can you comment at all on where the trend is going? We're moving towards more rental, I take it, in that area. Is that fair to say? And if so, how rapidly? And are we at a 50-50, or where are we?
So through the chair to Mayor Krog, we are currently seeing more rental. That appears to be the stock that is most desired at the moment through the development community. However, you know, with the market changing, I can't predict the future, I'm not sure. But it appears that rental is predominant within the study area right now compared to other parts of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I did the survey, and then I've been following along on all the Facebook comments, and I agree with some of them. And one of the big issues that we had, and I'll just read it from here, I tried to take the survey, but as per all surveys from the city, none of the choices were none of the above, forcing people to pick an idea rather than to be able to express opposition. On some, you could have none of the above, and then you could put ever, but on others, there wasn't that option. So for me, I just left them blank because I didn't agree with any of them. So I think that needs to be addressed, because it does leave a really bad taste in your mouth that I have to pick one of these even though I don't agree with it. So there should be an option that don't agree or none of the above. And that was quite consistent throughout here. So that was one of the things I saw. The other thing that keeps coming up is people don't understand the city, don't understand the city's role. Like, one of the big thing is turn the bay into a pool. Like, it's all of this stuff about all on private property. So when the question was asked about how the city can change Woodgrove Mall, it's private and people don't understand that. So all these ideas that are coming up are things that we can't do. So I don't know if there's a way we can try and educate people on these surveys, what the city can and cannot do. Like, one of it was to clean up the mall parking lot. Well, that's out of our hands. Then another question, which I thought was an interesting one, is there any neighborhoods similar cities similar in size that have areas such as Woodgrove that are considered to be vibrant? Do we know of any? Like, I know I was just in Kelowna, and it's just hopping down there by their Orchard Mall, like it's just hopping. So have we looked at that, and why are those working and ours aren't?
Ms. Brinkman?
Through the chair, and thank you for the feedback on the survey. And the nice thing is, that's about touching base early, is that we can kind of improve and work on that messaging throughout the project. So thank you for the feedback on that. And yeah, I think the complete communities, it's a planning concept, and usually it's housing, getting people living in the area that can create that vibrancy and activity at night, and shopping in the stores, and so creating additional housing certainly can help create vibrancy. That's definitely one avenue.
If I may add through the chair, we are looking at other jurisdictions, Surrey, Burnaby, where there are these large mall sites. And the consultant that we are working with have worked on large projects like this where malls have been redeveloped, so they do have some experience with the policies and the guidelines that help transform these areas into what city plan is envisioning for just not the mall, but the larger scope area of the Woodgrove Urban Center.
Thank you. And I would like to say it was really great for you when you talked about what the permittal service is versus the other surface. So there was a lot of really good explanation. So I actually thought, other than those couple points, I thought the survey was quite good, and it was nice to see the map on there, because I thought I lived in the Woodgrove area, but just outside it. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Gesselbrock.
So thanks for the report. Yeah, I guess it was notable for me, just like the baseline is like how little park amenity is around there. Like, you look at the picture of Woodgrove, and I grew up in this area, and like it was developed in the time where it was just like pave everything, and it's like 90% impervious surface, and it would really suck a bit if you're like family with small kids, like in those apartments that are behind Woodgrove. There's nowhere to go. You like walk out into a parking lot, and I think like if we are really envisioning densifying and having, reality is that a lot of people are going to, just affordability, be living in apartments, is like have them built in a way where you can go downstairs, and it's like this in Brasilia where they have apartments, and there's like a green space in a park where it's like literally at the bottom of your apartment. And I think until, and I don't know how, in subdivision processes or what we can do to mandate that type of amenity space in the apartments, I don't think it'll really be viable for families and to be outside of a car, and like that's how it's being used right now. And I don't know sort of what went into like for the apartment approvals that are even currently there now, but being able to get whatever policies in place that amenity space is being built in, because it could be really an amazing example of how a redevelopment of a mall site in that area of sort of use from the 80s and 90s and be transformed into a really livable space. But the lack of park space is one of the critical ones. And then at that small scale, as you look at like some of the older subdivisions just outside of it, were single family homes, and they're pretty close. There was like the road, and there was always that pocket park where it was like a 5-minute walk when you're a little kid, so like go and like get outside and run around and play on a thing. And I think that vision needs to be adapted to like what it looks like if you're living in an apartment. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gesselbrock. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. I wondered about the redesign of the Woodgrove area that was done by the students from Breda University in the Netherlands. And like it was, I don't know if any other councillors got a chance to look at it, but one of them was re-envisioning Woodgrove as wood growth. And it was a pretty incredible vision. I just wonder, are there any elements of that we can draw into this? Because I know that like it's the overarching plan basically removes the mall as it currently is and sort of breaks up the commercial areas into smaller units with walkable and bikeable paths in between. Did we find anything in that plan that we can be incorporating?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Eastmere. Yeah, we've been working with Breda quite a bit as they've been progressing with their vision, and we did see their most recent document. It's very impressive, and you know, the Transportation Department and Infrastructure Department are all working in tandem together to pull out the best parts of that vision for the area. And you know, it's great because they come from, you know, different perspective, different context. But we've had discussions with them where, you know, this shift towards alternative modes of transportation, alternative building forms, are all the elements that, you know, we as the steering committee have been talking about and really have been shown through their renderings in their plan. So yes, we have that on our desk. We are working to pull the best parts out of it, and are really grateful that they put all that effort into it. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. And yeah, I think with the numbers that you shared with the number of people who are driving versus cycling and walking, I actually thought that was not bad, like 85%, like to have 15% who are using alternative modes already, that's pretty good. And I think if we were to make it a little bit more inviting and safer for walkers and cyclists, because I don't spend a lot of time in that area, but I did do a walk around there the other day, and it felt intimidating as a pedestrian crossing some of those the little roundabout there. The drivers are just whipping through there. So anything we can do to kind of slow the traffic down and scale it so that it feels safe as a pedestrian and cyclist, I think will have a real impact. So looking forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eastmere. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask a question of staff about the Landsville residents, because it's so close that many of the people, particularly in the lower Landsville area, they're within 5 minutes of Woodgrove and even the upper Landsville. So are they going to be able to do the survey as well? And is their input going to be considered, because they're so, I mean, literally it's out their back door?
Through the chair to Councillor Perino, yes, we are advertising online and in the newspaper, and the survey is available to residents of the Regional District of Nanaimo. And we do have a question in the survey that identifies where you reside, so that we're aware of, you know, are these residents of Nanaimo, are these residents of the Regional District, are they beyond? Because this is a regional center, so we are tailoring the survey to get that information.
Great, yeah, because I mean, they're just within walking distance, so it's, yeah, it's great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Perino. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. Just, I wanted to follow up on what Councillor Eastmere said. But everything basically revolves around that big mall, really, let's be honest, which is privately owned. And in the last discussions I remember she had with some of us, she wasn't looking at a vision like this. It was more a vision of making that a medical center and all that. So is there any conversations with her about the vision the city wants to see, or are we just waiting till she comes to us and says, this is my vision?
Through the chair. So it turns out she is watching your council agendas and your council meetings. She did see in January 20th when we first presented the introduction to the project, and did reach out to staff, and we did meet with her, was it a couple of weeks ago, and with her translator. And so she's very aware of the project, and she has ideas for the site, and we're looking forward to sharing with her the results of this project and to work collaboratively to, yeah.
I think that's great that we've got an owner that wants to work with the city and that the city's got some already set plans, and so awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Any further questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, thank you. The piece that really struck me is that this is an area that's going to likely absorb a lot of development, and our infrastructure is already a bit pressed, so something to have in mind. Okay, I see no further questions or comments. That was for information. It's question period now. I don't see anyone at the, nope, thank you. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Mayor Crow, Councillor Armstrong, all those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, we are adjourned.